Hey, it's that card girl. Today we're going to be taking a look at the One Piece card game Starter Deck 17. The box comes with your starter deck and a PRBO1 Premium Booster Pack. Wait, is it Hans? Where's the box? We always start with the box. Please tell me you can fix this, Hans. Got one job. I mean, you are kind of the editor too, but hey, look, it's the box. How exactly are you planning on getting that back in the box, though? Oh, well, that's one way to do it. Now that we've got that sorted out and are back on track, let's take a look at the box. ST17 is a blue deck featuring Donquixote Doflamingo as the leader, and once we go over the cards that come included, we'll talk about some options you have to upgrade your deck. This is part of a series of videos where we're going over the One Piece starter deck starting at 15. We're putting out 2 a week right now on Monday and Fridays. We also have videos coming out Wednesday and shorts on Sundays. Aside from One Piece, we also explore the Pokemon TCG and Disney's Lorcana TCG with more fun things in the works. I'm looking at you, Gundam Card Game. So we've got our BlueDofi leader all shiny and bright on top of our 50 card deck with 10 Dawn cards hiding underneath, wrapped up all safe and sound. Let's change that though so we can see what this deck is all about. I never get over that satisfaction of unwrapping a fresh deck. I think it's akin to that dopamine rush from pulling the plastic off new electronics. Let's see what we're going to be talking about today. We've got our leader Dofi, 2 copies of Trafalgar Law, who's a 4-cost 5k power, 1k counter, 2 copies of Boa Hancock, who's a 4-cost with 6k power, 4 copies of Crocodile, who's a 4-cost 5k power, 1k counter, 2 copies of Buggy, who's a 1-cost 2k power, 2k counter, 4 copies of Marshall D. Tech, who's a 2-cost 3k power, 1k counter character, 4 copies of Donquixote Doflamingo, a 3-cost 4k power, 1k counter. I love that he lines up under our leader Dofi. 4 copies of the 2-cost event Overheat, 4 copies of Gecko Moria, a 4-cost with 6k power and a 1k counter, 4 copies of Bart here, a 3-cost 3k with a 1k counter and a name I refuse to butcher again, 4 copies of Edward Weevil, who is 3-cost with 5k power and a 1k counter, 4 copies of another Gecko Moria, 4-cost again, but this time with 5k power and a 1k counter, 4 copies of Dracul Mihawk, who's 4-cost with 5k power and a 2k counter, 4 copies of a different Trafalgar Law, this time a 1-cost with 1k power, and 4 copies of Jinbei, who is 4-cost with 5k power and a 1k counter, and then we have our 10 Dawn that we'll just set aside. Now let's break down that deck and see what it does. Our leader, Donquixote Doflamingo, has 5 life and 5,000 power. If you attach 2 Dawn to him and then rest 1 Dawn in your cost area when you attack, you reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If that card is a 7 Warlords of the Seas type character with a cost of 4 or less, you can play it rested. If it isn't a 7 Warlords of the Sea character or it costs 5 or more, you may place it back at the top of your deck after revealing it. A lot of people who play this deck will just place it face up on the top of their deck since everyone already knows what it's going to be, so you don't have to remember. Buggy here can help you avoid pulling a card that doesn't fit Dofi's parameters though. His on-play effect lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in whatever order you want. So before you swing with your leader, you can play him to make sure you have what you want on top. This 1-copy Trafalgar Law is just a cheap blocker with 1k power. We've got our event Overheat, that's a counter card. It gives one of your leaders or characters plus 4,000 power during the battle and lets you return up to 1 active character with a cost of 3 or less to your hand. Its trigger lets you return up to 1 character that costs 4 or less to the owner's hand, so it could be used to return one of your opponent's cards to their hand as well if you didn't want to return one of your own. Remember, when you take a card from your life, you can choose to activate its trigger and send it to your discard, or you can put it in your hand and have it to play later. On to Martial D. Teach. During your main phase, once per turn, he lets you place one card from your hand to the top of your deck and give up to 2 Rested Dawn to one leader or character. He's great to get Dofi set up for his effect. You can get a card from your hand onto your deck for your leader to let you play for free. Maybe even a card you put back in your hand when you played that Overheat event during your opponent's last turn. And Teach lets you give 2 of your Rested Dawn to your leader, so you're only having to rest 1 Dawn in your cost area to trigger Dofi's effect when you swing with him. Edward Weevil is just a basic 3-cost character with 5,000 power and a 1,000 counter. The character card Dofi is a 3-cost blocker that on play lets you look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and place them back at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. Bart has an on-play that lets you look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 the 7 Warlords of the Sea type card, and add it to your hand. Then you put the other card either on top or bottom of your deck. He's great for helping you get cards where you need them to be for combos. Now we have our 4-cost Gecko, who is 6,000 power and a 1,000 counter with no effect. Dracul Mihawk, when you attach 1 Dawn to him, lets you draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand when you attack. Our other 4-cost Gecko Moria is only 5,000 power with a 1,000 counter, but has an on-play effect that lets you add up to 1 7 Warlords of the Sea or Thriller Bark Pirate type character with a cost of 4 or less other than Gecko Moria from your trash to your hand. And that does mean you can't add either of these geckos back to your hand from your trash. Jinbei and the 4-cost Law have similar effects, however they activate at different times. For Jinbei on KO, you place up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. For Law, on play you may return 1 of your characters to your hand, and then if your leader is the 7 Warlords of the Sea type, you return up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand. So with him, you're returning 2 cards to hands, and at least 1 of them will be your own card, whereas Jinbei puts the card at the back of the deck. Crocodile has an on-play effect of reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If that card's the 7 Warlords of the Sea type, draw 2 cards and place 1 card from your hand at the top of your deck. Again, allowing you to make sure you have cards where you need them for combos. Boa Hancock is a blocker that also has an on-play. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck, then place them at the top or bottom of your deck in whatever order you want. Then you give up to 1 Rested Dawn to a 7 Warlords of the Sea type character or leader. So both of these can help you set up for your leader's effect by arranging what card is going to be on top of your deck. Plus, Boa will let you get 1 of those 2 Dawn you need onto Dofi as well. And that's all the cards that come in your starter deck. Let's move on to some upgrade options for this deck. Now, 3 of the cards included in this BlueDofi deck were also included in Starter Deck 3, which is a 7 Warlords of the Sea deck with Crocodile as the leader. Since a lot of our cards have effects based on the 7 Warlords of the Sea type cards, ST3 is a great place to get some upgrade cards from. Both this 3-cost 1,000 power, 1,000 counter Boa Hancock and this 5-cost 6,000 power Crocodile come from ST3. Boa is a blocker with a trigger that lets you play her. Crocodile is also a blocker, but if you have 1 Dawn attached to him, when he blocks you can place up to 1 character with a cost of 2 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. This 4-cost Sable's event card is also from ST3. Its effect is during your main phase, you return up to 1 character with a cost of 7 or less to the owner's hand. If you get this card from your life, its triggers the same effect. Love Love Mellow, a 2-cost event, also comes out of ST3. It's a counter card that gives up to 1 of your leader or character cards plus 4,000 power during the battle. Then you draw 1 card if you have 3 or less cards in your hand. This 2-cost 3,000 power Bart has an on-play effect that lets you look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and then return them to either the top or bottom of your deck in any order. Its trigger is play this card. Martial D. Teach is 4-cost with 4,000 power and a 1,000 counter. His on-play effect allows you to return 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. Dofi here is 7-cost and 7,000 power with an on-play effect of return 1 character with a cost of 7 or less to the owner's hand. I know you're going to be shocked to learn that these 3 cards also come from ST3. Moving away from Starter Deck 3, we have Edward Weevil from EV01. He's 4-cost with 6,000 power and an on-play that lets you draw a card. Jinbei from OP07 has a cost of 4, 5,000 power, and is a 1k counter. On play, you play up to 1 of the 7 Warlords of the Sea type characters with a cost of 4 or less other than Jinbei, and yes, that is any 4-cost Jinbei, not just this one, from your hand. So for his 4 cost, you're getting up to 8 Dawn worth of cards out on the field. As a note, it was just announced that this card will be banned starting April 1st of this year. A few cards we're going to be talking about in other starter deck videos are part of this wave of bans as well. We made the decision to keep these cards in anyway. Personally, Hans and I are going to keep playing with the banned cards in our deck because we're both cool with it. If you have a friend that doesn't care about what cards have been banned, you can still play this card with them. Just keep in mind, it is about to technically be banned. Perfume Femur is a 2-cost event from OP07. You play this card during your main phase and select up to 1 of the 7 Warlords of the Sea type leader or character cards to gain plus 2,000 power during your turn. Then, if you attack with that card, your opponent can't activate a blocker. This card's trigger effect lets you draw a card. Now, moving to off-type cards, we have Sengoku from OP07, which is 1 cost with 2,000 power and a 1k counter. His on-play effect allows you to look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 of the 7 Warlords of the Sea type cards, and add it to your hand. Then you place the other 4 cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. Perona from OP01 is 1 cost, 2,000 power, and 1,000 counter. On play, you look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and place them at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So, nice searcher that lets you get your deck in the order you need for other cards' effects. Charlotte Pudding from OP06 is 4 cost with 4k power and a 1k counter. She has an on-play effect that has your opponent return all cards in their hand to their deck, shuffle their deck, and then draw a new 5-card hand. Gravity Blade Raging Tiger is a 7-cost event card from OP06 that lets you place up to 2 characters with a cost of 6 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck in any order during your main phase. Its trigger effect has you place up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Since it doesn't specify, these can either be your cards or your opponent's cards. This is a great way for you to be able to get an on-play effect again or get rid of some of your opponent's characters you just don't want to deal with right now. The 10-cost Kaido from OP05 is a big hitter with 12,000 power and the added on-play effect of drawing 4 cards if your opponent has 3 or less life cards. Well, that is about it for our BlueDofi Starter Deck 17 and upgrades. This is a fun deck that lets you manipulate your cards to get what you need, where you need it, when you need it. Thanks for letting me talk One Piece with you. Now let's get to ripping that pack and see what fun cards we get. Quick note, since you've made it almost to the end of the video, this week we are going to be putting out a few extra videos. So keep checking back to see what we've got planned. We should have videos out every day except Saturday this week. Any guesses what we're going to be looking at? Hey! Look, the Donquixote family card came with Dofi's deck. I guess he didn't want to leave his family behind. Also, I promise that we do get our focusing issues figured out. This is a new thing, and it gets better. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, and tell your favorite podcast about us. It's only fitting to have the last card we talk about in our upgrades be Kaido and the Kaido Dawn be in this pack. That card girl out!